And joining us now on the Medi-Share guest line is actor, director, and writer Eric Close. He's the star of a new movie, The Mulligan, which is releasing in theaters nationwide April 18th and 19th. You know him from the TV shows Nashville and Without a Trace, and from the movie American Sniper. He was also an actor in one of my favorite shows, Suits, as he played Travis Tanner. He joins us today to talk faith, sports, and life. We'll hear all about The Mulligan. It's a heartwarming story about life inspired by the game of golf. You can find tickets at themulliganmovie.com. Eric, so great to have you on Unpacking It. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you, Bryce.
Absolutely. Well, man, we're excited to have you on today, and we'll start first. All right, you're out in Oregon, but who are the sports teams that you root for? What sports do you follow?
Well, I've always been I grew up playing tennis. I was a competitive tennis player when I was younger and played soccer. Every kid's on soccer team. And then just a lot of, individual sports. I, grew up surfing, skiing, all that kind of stuff. But I've always been a big fan of tennis, following the Big Four and watching the majors. And then when I met my wife, number of years ago, a couple decades at least, almost 30 years ago, her family were golfers. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to marry into this family, I better learn how to play this game. And so it was one of the best decisions I ever made, was picking up the game of golf, and it's changed my life in many ways. And so I love golf, love tennis. And then as far as, football goes, I usually root for what the town that I'm living in. And if those teams aren't doing well, so like when I lived in San Diego, I obviously rooted for the Chargers, or LA, I root for the LA teams. Now I'm in Oregon, so I root for the Ducks. And so if a friend of mine, if my team's out of the picture, then I'll probably root for my friend. So like I'll root for Kansas City because my wife's from Kansas, my father-in-law's a Kansas City fan. So I try to support the friends of my teams. But if our teams are facing off, where my loyalty lies.
I love it. That's excellent. Yeah. And so, all right, you've gotten into the game of golf. Do you enjoy watching golf?
I love it. I absolutely love golf. Love watching it, playing it, talking about it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So, all right. So the new movie there's of course golf undertone. So explain to our listeners how the game of golf is incorporated into the Mulligan.
Well, first of all, I mean, if anybody out there that really knows and loves the game of golf and understands it, it's one of the few sports, maybe the only sport, where you're given a level of trust. It requires honesty. A lot of sports, if you cause a foul or something, you try to go, I didn't foul, whatever, or you try to bend the rules as much as possible. In golf, it's the opposite. You're playing against your competitor. You're coming down the stretch for the win, and your buddy hits, your opponent, the guy you're competing against, hits their ball into the woods. You help them, and you could potentially help them find their ball, and they could still beat you. Or if you do something wrong and break a rule and no one else sees it, it's on you to call that penalty on yourself. So it's a game of honesty. And also, the thing I love about the game of golf is, like life, you can hit a great shot. You can do the right thing and something bad will happen. You hit a sprinkler head or a rock that's in the fairway, or your ball lands in a divot that even if you hit the drive right down the middle of the fairway, you go, it's a perfect drive, and then you end up in a bad lie. And you have to play it as it lies, and that's life, But when coming back to the Mulligan, there's also a thing that's come up in golf. There's this rule called the Mulligan. And when you're with your buddies and you're playing and you hit a bad shot, it's usually on the first tee, you're just kind of nervous and warming up. Usually your friends will say, if you hit a bad shot, hey, take a mulligan, hit another shot. And it's a second chance. And even within the rules of the game, if you hit a bad shot, there's always the next shot that you can kind of make up. So you can hit a crummy shot and then all of a sudden chip in from off the green and make a birdie. So I just love that about the game. And so in the Mulligan, it's about a guy who's kind of lost his way in life and meets a guy named Old Pro, played by Pat Boone, who through the game of golf leads this guy back onto the right path in life and helps him get straightened out and help him find his faith. So that's the tie-in with the golf in the movie.
Yeah, so I want to talk more about that and the second
Yeah.
chances. And of course, we love mulligans because when we do our golf tournament for our ministry, we sell the mulligans. So we want guys
Yeah.
to, hey, keep using the mulligans. Um,
Yeah.
but as far as in the movie, you play a good amount of golf, and so you mentioned when you got married, all right, I got to get into the game of golf. So where was your game at when you started filming the movie, and did filming the movie improve your golf game?
You know, my game was in pretty good shape, but it was a I was hitting a lot of balls there. You know, we're on camera and practicing playing rounds during, in between scenes and days off, which were few. But I was around a lot of good golfers, and I just felt one of the things I gained from it is I relaxed a little bit more. You know, you can get pretty tense in the game, and just the irony of it, you hear this people say, don't grip the club too hard, swing smooth, swing slower, don't try and kill the ball. The ball will go further if you don't try and part of that it's a trust. It's a trust that the equipment maker made that club to do what it's supposed to do. And all you have to do is just turn and swing through that ball. Now it's easier said than done, but I found that on that movie, when I just kind of let go and didn't try to be perfect, I ended up hitting some pretty good shots.
Did they give you a golf pro to work with to get lessons, or what was that setup like?
What's cool is Wally Armstrong, who wrote the book, The Mulligan, he was on set. So,
Okay.
but that's a dangerous thing because, we all have our own style. It would be like, someone going up to Phil Mickelson and tweaking his grip and saying, hey, you should change your grip. You're a little too weak on this. That could mess up his whole game. So we all know that unsolicited advice can hurt you, but Wally was great as a sounding board. If I could ask him, I say, hey, I'm having a little trouble. What am I doing here? And he could, help me with that. So that was really cool to have him on set. Plus the fact that he wrote the book. And so you grab a lot of information from him regarding the story and the characters.
That's right. So let our listeners know that this movie is based on the book, The Mulligan, and Ken Blanchard, who's a well-known kind of business writer, coach type guy, was a part of this book with Wally.
Yeah, they co-wrote it. Yeah, Ken co-wrote it with Wally.
And so all right. So that was the kind of the inspiration for the movie. How did you end up being one, involved, but two, wanting to say yes, and what really was the hook to get you to be a part of this movie?
Well, first of all, any movie about golf or has anything to do with golf, I'm in. So that was an easy ask. Also, I love the faith element of it. I love that it's a story of redemption and forgiveness, second chances. I mean, we all in our lives need second chances. None of us are perfect. We blow it, and thankfully, we have a God who's merciful and forgiving and gives us chances to turn things around. I think a lot of times people don't think they can do that. I think, oh, I'm too far down the road and I've made a mess of my life or whatever. Honestly, it's not, a lot of times we think, oh, a person who's made a mess of their life, it's, oh, they were in jail or they did something really, horrendous. But, for example, the character Paul McAllister I play in the movie, he's actually, when you see the movie, he's actually a guy who's got a lot of integrity. He's hardworking. He's honest. He's chosen not to drink because his father was an alcoholic. He's super honest because his dad kind of wanted him to cheat life. But Paul's thorn in his side, or his error, is he's not humble. He's very prideful and not so generous. Or any generosity he has kind of comes from that pride. It's like, oh, it's about me. I'm so generous. And so Paul's lesson, because of Paul's pride in this movie, he has a wake of destruction, and that's his family is falling apart. So, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, yeah. So his family starts to fall apart, or is falling apart. And so, when I talk about there's different paths and journeys for each person, and what for one person might be, they need a mulligan for something, someone else's journey, they need a mulligan for something. And that's what I really enjoyed about this film. As far as how I came about to know this project is our producer, Rick Eldridge, has produced a bunch of movies, really cool guy, man of faith. His son Rodney and I were working together on another movie in Georgia, actually in the same town. We shot the Mulligan, called Toccoa, Georgia. And we were playing golf one day, and he just brought up the subject and said, "Hey, my dad's developing this movie. So it's a ways out, but I don't know if you'd be interested." And I said, "Absolutely. I love that idea. Love that story. And, if you don't cast Brad Pitt, let me know." And so, couple of years later, I got a call and they said, "Hey, this is a go now. And I'd love to have you as part of this movie." And so I signed on to do it.
Awesome. Love it. That's a great story. And so this theme of mulligans and second chances, and you mentioned it, kind of all of us can relate to it in some ways. And so for you personally, can you share a little bit about your journey and even some of the second chances and the ways that God's grace has entered into your life, and you've experienced his grace and mercy?
Yeah, well, I went to a private school in junior high, and that's when I first came to faith. First, kind of understanding who Jesus was, and what he offered, and how much he loved us, and no matter what. And it took me a while to, I'm a pretty stubborn guy, so it took me a while to, really come to embrace it. And probably really in my early 20s when I graduated from college. And I was entering a career that I didn't know anybody in the business. And my dad's a surgeon, my mom's an artist, but I didn't
Wow.
live in Los Angeles. So got into the business, and it was really a step of faith, and I felt like that's where God was calling me to go. And so I just surrendered and said, "Okay, here we go. And if this is what you want me to do, God, then open the doors." And he did. He brought a lot of amazing people into my life who helped navigate my career and support me. And then he brought my wife Carrie into my life, who was, one of the greatest blessings that, has ever happened to me. And now we got two grown daughters, and, I continuing to do a job that I love to do, and have a great family life and friends. But, like I said, earlier on in my life, through high school and college, I was kind of lost my way. And thankfully, there came a point in my life where I said, "Boy, I really miss having God in my life. I just feel kind of lost. I'm going out into the real world, and what's it all about, and where am I going? And I really don't want to try and do this alone." And I said, "Okay, God, if you're really the creator of the universe, and you have all these promises, I'm going to trust them." And so here we are.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so you mentioned being a father of two daughters. So I'm a father of two daughters as well. Mine are 2 years and 6 months. So
Oh
uh,
boy, you're just getting warmed up.
so I can learn from you. But in this movie, your character has a strained relationship with his son, and so kind of I guess playing that character and thinking about that dynamic that he was experiencing. How did you translate that to your own relationship with your daughters, and how did it maybe even encourage you as a dad? What was that whole dynamic like?
It's a great question. Anybody who's raised kids and now are, they're at that point where they're, flying the coop and starting their own lives. I still have one daughter in college. The other one just graduated.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, thank you. Yeah, but it has its challenges. There's a lot of trappings in the world, and it's a big responsibility to guide your kids, try to protect them the best you can, but also let them stumble, and just pray that it's not a stumble that they can't come back from. As they're getting older, they're exercising their independence and wanting to become their own adults. So, drawing from that was easy for me in the movie. The part that was different for me was that Paul's a workaholic, and I'm not.
Hmm.
I work really hard when I'm working. I dive all in, but I made a commitment to myself in the beginning of my career, even before I met my wife, Carrie, I just said that no matter what happens, and if I, get married and have a family, which I had hoped would happen, that I promised myself I wouldn't let work get in the way of my family and friendships.
Mm.
And I can say that there were times that it did, and I had to kind of reprioritize. It's easy to, because if you have a work ethic and you work hard, you have to kind of self-discipline to say, okay, it's time to cut it off right now. I need to pull back, or I need to turn off the light and go home. And so I made a real committed effort to be an available dad, even when I worked away from home. So for me in the movie, the fact that Paul was estranged from his family, really what I focused on is his mindset, that in his mind, he was doing the right thing. He's like, I'm providing for my family. I love my family. And if they can't understand that, well, that's on them. And that's where that pride issue came in. But it was easy to focus on the love that I have for my daughters, and transfer that to Andrew, who played my son. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
No, that's neat to hear, and I think that's an encouragement to our listeners. And I know I wrestle with those choices too. I like to work and enjoy what I do, and I got to put boundaries around that. And so, especially before I had two daughters, there was more time to do that. Now it's less time, so I'm learning all of that. So that's an encouragement that you set out to do that, and
Yeah,
learn
and
from the moments you didn't.
yeah, and the other thing, there's a great line in the movie where, well, it's not even about the line. It's my son. Really, his anger towards Paul is that he actually is defending his mom. He feels that Paul's really hurting mom, and that's where the anger is. I mean, obviously, he feels abandoned by his father, and he feels like his father's clearly put work before the family, but there is this, defense of his mom, like, dad's supposed to be here for mom. And so I always tell guys, hey, look, your kids are going to look to you and how you love your wife. There's a lot of other things they're not going to remember. And I'll give you an example. When my kids were younger, my wife and I would go away on a trip, or go to a television festival or something. My kids younger, they obviously go, no, we don't want you to go. We don't want to stay grandpa and grandma's, whatever. And we would say to them, hey, you like when you see mom and dad hold hands and we kiss and all that? You like all that? And they go, oh yeah, we love that. And they go, well, that's why we're going to do this trip, because it makes us, really like to be with each other. And then they go, oh, and they get it. And then they go, okay. And then, we FaceTime or whatever while we're away, and we come back. And so I think that builds that confidence in our kids, because I think a lot of times we can actually put our kids even before our spouses, and that's out of balance, in my opinion. So
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear you unpack that a little bit more, because again, my wife and I, we got two young daughters, and so we're navigating this new season of life, and it's very easy, especially now, because those two girls need a lot of attention and taken care of. So a lot of times I get left out. So what have you learned as far as keeping that marriage priority?
well, you make it a priority. It's like I don't want this to sound selfish, but you and your wife were together before your kids came along. And so I think it's like, let me even broaden it out even more. If God's your priority in your life and you love God most, then everything else in your life gets the best attention. But if you put like your spouse first, God's kind of second, then things just get out of whack. And so I feel that when your relationship's strong, then your kids are strong and confident, and they feel secure. And so, some people just cannot bring themselves to get a babysitter, or somebody to come just watch the kids, even for a weekend or a date night. And I always say, hey, you got to get over that. You got to find a way to just say, because your kids are going to be fine. I think a lot of times people are like, oh man, if I go away, my kids will be traumatized for life. And I just, look, why, people send their kids to summer camp, and a lot of those kids who go to summer camp every year, they're really confident kids because you go there and you're away from your family dynamic, and you have to learn how to work with your peers. You have to make your bed, get up in the morning, do dishes, and then you go out and play and have a great time, and camp's all cool. But there's this structure there with your peers, and so you all kind of have to step up. And if you don't step up, the rest of the people at camp are down on you about it. They're like, hey, you're making trouble for the rest of us. So you learn these responsibilities, and it builds confidence and all that. And I think that family can also be like summer camp a little bit, where you have rules and responsibilities at home, and priorities, and you're like, hey guys, look, mom and my relationship, or dad's and my relationship, is really important, and we love you guys, so we're going to really work on it too. And that might mean sometimes we're going to go away and you're going to have to hang with the babysitter or grandpa and grandma, but we're coming back. And in the end, it's, that's what's, and I'll tell you one other thing. Awesome. A friend of mine asked my dad recently, he said, man, tell me how your family is the way it is. You guys are really close. And I know our last name's Close, but we really are a really tight knit family. And my dad said to my friend, my dad says, spend time together. That was his thing. And I would totally agree that, whether it's spending time going to church together, having meals together, going camping together, watching a movie together, whatever, just spending that time together is huge. Even having your kids come into your studio and see what you do is really cool. So anyway.
Yeah. Oh man. No, that's a wonderful message and encouragement. So I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, it's as simple as that. Spend time together, but oftentimes in life, gosh, we're all so busy running around, and we're missing out on those, even the daily eating dinner together type of things. It's
I know. And look, I mean, you're young, you got young kids, you're building your business or whatever, you're doing that. And so you figure it out as you go along, and I think as long as it's on your mind and you're intentional about it, there's ways to figure it out. You go, okay, I can see where I'm a little out of balance. It's like going to the gym or not. You're not going to the gym, you go, or not hitting enough golf balls. After a while, you go, boy, I'm so inconsistent. I need to get out and hit the ball a little bit more. But that's again, back to the mulligan. Look, we get these mulligans, we mess up daily, and it's like, okay, I didn't get that right today. I'm going to get that right tomorrow. And and thankfully we get those chances while we're here.
That's right. Absolutely. And so one more thing on the movie. So you mentioned that Old Pro, which was the character played by Pat Boone, was your mentor in the movie, your guide in the movie. What has your experience been like in life with mentors and the importance of mentors?
I love that. First of all, let me say Pat Boone is extraordinary. I've known of Pat my whole life. My mom used to have a crush on him when she was a young girl. She was swooning when she found out I was working with Pat. And it was great because, like, when we were on set, if we were out in public, he was the star. I mean, we had to like fight people back. I was his bodyguard. No one knew who I was. They wanted to get the Pat. It was cool. And he is so gracious and just authentic and vibrant for 80 something years old. He and I played 18 holes of golf together. He's just an awesome guy. And yeah, he played, Paul's mentor in the movie, and through the game of golf and the lessons of life through the game of golf, brings Paul back to his family, which is really awesome. And in my own life, starting with my own father and my wife's dad, those guys have been incredible mentors to me. And I have found that through life, I'm one to reach out to people that I trust and admire. And I'm really not afraid to ask them questions and just say, hey, here's what's going on in my life. What are your thoughts? I think, sometimes we try to go it alone, and that's really tricky. And it's important to, I think, that's why football teams have coaches, why athletes have coaches. Now, there's this new thing. I mean, there's life coaches. It's not super new, but it's definitely a newer concept. And I think it's really helpful to have someone in your life that you can bounce ideas off of, and that can, shed some wisdom and knowledge. in your life to help you, because we all, at the end of the day, I think we all want to finish strong,
Mm,
and sometimes we don't know how to do that. We're trying, but we're spinning our wheels, and having those people in your life can really help you finish strong and not, crash and burn right at the point where you should really be like, finishing strong.
that's right. And then passing that on to the next generation too, and keeping
Absolutely.
that mentor model continuing, and ultimately it's discipleship as well for those of us that follow Jesus. So,
Absolutely.
all right, the movie is called The Mulligan, and you can find out information about the tickets, getting tickets, and release dates April 18th and 19th. TheMulliganMovie.com. TheMulliganMovie.com. We'll put the link in the show notes as well, and encourage everybody to check this movie out. It's going to be awesome. And all right, last thing as we wrap up. Hopefully this becomes the next great golf movie. But for you, what was your favorite golf movie over the years?
Wow. That's pretty interesting. I mean, like Tin Cup was pretty cool. Um,
Go to.
I did also love, man, I hate to single them out because they all have really strong points. I loved what Redford did with Bagger Vance.
Yeah.
Um, it was just the beauty of the game. Also, the greatest game ever played. Um, and it, I just get there's a thing about golf. One of the things that drew me to golf was the history of the game. I played a course in Scotland called Royal Aberdeen, and if my memory is correct, it opened in 1789.
Hmm.
And there's just something, I don't know. There's something transformative when you step onto these courses that have been played for hundreds of years, and we know this game. The origin comes from, maybe 800 years ago. So I love the history of the game, and there's just something amazing. And then you think about the Masters and how often a winner, the person who wins, and then you hear this backstory of things that are going on outside of that story. So like Sergio winning on the anniversary of Seve's win, you think you can. I mean, if you wrote that script, people would go, that's you just made that up. But there's these
Right.
amazing these amazing life connections to the history of the game, and just how life gets played out in the game of golf. And so
Mm.
I love it, and um, I'm grateful that I physically can play it, and that I get to enjoy seeing people put it on the screen, like in the Mulligan. And you'll see in this movie, the cinematography is stunning. I
Mm.
mean, the vistas at the course that we're playing are so beautiful, and I can't wait to see it on, like, literally on a big screen. It's
Yeah.
going to be really stunning.
What's the course? You said in Georgia.
We played. It's called the Currahee Club, and that's
Okay.
where we played. It's awesome course in Toccoa, Georgia. Um, and another cool little side note is my buddy Jim Nance is in the Mulligan too, and he does a really great job. And we're really fortunate to have him as part of the movie. So looking forward to everybody getting a chance to see him too.
Yes, we love Jim Nance. I'm actually connected with him through one of my good friends, and so excited to see him in the movie. And Jim Zoki's in the movie. He's a Charlotte guy. He
Yep.
plays alongside Jim Nance. So,
Yep,
friend of
that's
the
right.
show as
That's
well.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So
great guys. So I'm glad that you know Jim too, because as you know, he's just an awesome human being.
awesome guy. Yep. He says
Yep.
hello, friends, and he's a genuinely friendly friend type guy. So it's
Yep.
awesome. Um,
Authentic. Yep.
Absolutely. So the Mulligan, man, Eric, I could talk all day, but so thankful for your time. I know you got to get out to the golf course. You're gonna play some golf today. So we're gonna get you out
Yeah,
there.
I'm gonna do a little construction. I'm working on a little shed for my. It's I'm actually we built a tack room for the horses, so
Oh
working
wow.
on that. Then I'm gonna go tee it up.
Very cool. Well, we'll hit them straight and wish you the best with the movie and the response, and we'll be promoting it and excited to to get people out there to support it. He's Eric Close, joining us here on the Unpacking It podcast presented by Medi-Share.